yeah, just even I'm just reading it, tips to deal with others not following through. You can have a great day and somebody not follow through and you just go, oh, for goodness sake, your language comes out, your shoulders tense, your butt tenses, and you just want to fire at them and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So first, you're common, you're human, but let's give you some tips to how to deal with that.
Right.
So Moira, let's you kick this one off.
Sure. I think
that she goes, sure. Where
do I want to start with this one? So here's the thing. Yeah. I think that it's really important to not take things personally.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Hello. Hi, Moira.
Hello, my dear.
Hi, listeners. Oh, today is, even though we sound invigorated, today's actually a sickly topic that when we came up with this idea, we both went, oh, that feels a little
dear.
bit. Oh. But we have just had a few little giggles off camera here, off voice camera. So that's why we're a little bit like this. Well, Moira's been very quiet, but
as usual.
Welcome to, as usual, welcome to our deliciously motivated mindset conversation. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining Moira and Deborah and myself, and to our lovely listeners, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the things we do, if you've listened to us before or not, is we rate ourselves. And this is a great, just a check-in. Mm-hmm. There's no right or wrong in this, but it just allows you to check in where you are emotionally.
What emissions have you got going on?
Yeah. Missionary. It's just to help you check in emotionally where you're at. And it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, just where you feel. And there's a 0 to 10. 10, which is number between 9 and 11, is if you're in complete frazzle.
Yeah.
That is
feeling
just
chaotic. God, crazy train running through your living room.
Can't even see light at any tunnel. All you see is you're rocking in that corner.
Yep.
That's a 10. A 10.
Chaotic.
Yeah. And a 0, which we've started saying 0 for Zen.
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like.
It does.
Is when you're in a 0 space, you are
super calm, easy, graceful.
Yeah, you're present and poised.
Calm. Yes.
Yeah.
Present and
beautiful. So our aim is to take you to a 0. However, if you don't get a 0, that's all on you. No, if you don't get to a 0, that's totally okay. But the purpose of today is just to take you to that 0, close to the 0, then away from the 10. And you start with this number. Halfway through, you'll check in and find out your next number. And then at the end, you'll find a number. Do not worry if you go back either way, but it just allows you. And this is a great tool to, even if you're having a day that you just like, what's going on for me?
Discombobulated.
Yeah, I'm at 8. No wonder I woke up as an 8. Yep. Like, gosh, I've now got to get to a 0. So just know you're human.
Absolutely. And the other thing to just slide in here too is, dear listeners, if you feel triggered or caught off guard or need help, please do reach out to us on social media or message privately, because our intent is to help you become motivated to actually get to know you and understand and lovingly accept where you're at.
Mm.
Right.
So a key is to get you in the heart.
Yes. Yes. Well
would
said.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Living
You're
from
more
the
like-
heart.
That's it. Perfect. So in saying that, now we've got to rate ourselves more. I know. What would I be? I'll be a 0 on laughter, but no. So Moira, what number would you be before we kick off?
Well, I'm kind of at one of these
Actually-
crossroad things, is like, am I at 3 or am I at 2? And whenever I do that, I'm going to just say I'm at 2.5.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
Because
going
like
to
you
say,
it's this kind of a interesting topic. I think there's going to be some really juicy tips that we'll get with this, but it's also just wanting to make sure that we are of service with this conversation. So got my radar up on it.
got my radar up. And I'm going to say I'm a 1.5 because I'm between a 1 and a 2. But this topic can take you like as soon as Moira said it, my whole shoulders went. Actually, I think I said it. I don't know. Anyway, as soon as it was said, the whole shoulders went, oh.
Ugh.
And I myself went to probably a 6 in energy,
right,
saying it felt sick. But I'm going to say I'm a 1.5. And the only way is up,
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in saying that, our topic, which everybody knows, is tips to deal with others not following through. And I put a little bit of animation in that because if I was to say it, tips to deal with others not following through,
then it feels heavy.
Oh yeah. And I tell you what, this can take you to a 10.
Oh, it can. Yeah. And it's
straight away.
Right on that crazy making train.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's kick off with I'm just reading it. Tips to deal with others not following through. You can have a great day and somebody not follow through and you just go, oh, for goodness sake, your language comes out, your shoulders tense, your butt tenses, and you just want to fire at them and everyone else. So first, you're common, you're human, but let's give you some tips to how to deal with that.
Right.
So Moira, you kick this one off.
Sure. I think
that she goes, sure.
Where do I want to start with this one? So here's the thing. I think that it's really important to not take things personally, because that is going to make you go from 0 to 10 really fast, maybe even up to a 20. Is that if you look at somebody not following through and you think to yourself, it's because, oh, they let me down, or they did it on purpose, or you've done this before. Yeah, you've done this before. Or now what can I do? It's like if you really depended on somebody they said to you, oh, they were going to do, go pick up some groceries for you, or they were going to meet the mailman or drop a package off or something. Like it doesn't.
Which can be small, but can be big.
Yeah. But the thing is that the biggest tip, this is first tip, we're going to start it right off with a tip. Number 1 is that you may need to repeat in your head over and over and over again. I know I've done this before. It's not about me. That person forgetting or saying they were going to do something and then not doing it, it's not about me. It's about that person. What is about me is that I'm still the boss of how I feel.
My emotions, yeah.
Yeah. And so I need to quickly come back in and say, okay, so somebody didn't follow through. Then what can I learn about it? What can I do differently? If it was something that was really, really critical or crucial to me, then what did I need to do differently to make sure that ball didn't get dropped, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Right. And
I think this is a great one. Well, I mean, we all know it's a great one, but I think about that, and it's just 4 agreements.
Yes, absolutely.
This is screaming for agreements. Don't take anything personally.
Those don't take anything personally. It's those two ones in the middle. Don't take anything personally, but don't make assumptions. That's the huge one. Don't make assumptions. Just because somebody says, oh yeah, sure, don't worry about that, I'm going to do it. And then if you let go and assume that just because they've said that it's getting done, that's when you need to realize, everybody's walking to the beat of their own drum. Right.
Yeah, one of the things is, so if I follow people up and someone says, oh, I want this or do this or da and or whatever, and then I don't hear from them, and I'll send another email and So if you're one of those people, you're going to hear my strategy. If you haven't picked it up, it's the same strategy I use for everyone. I'll go, I don't want to be a stalker, but are you okay?
Right. Yeah.
And it's saying, I feel like a stalker because I've contacted you 20 times in the last 2 weeks because you said you want something and I'm like, or whatever.
Right.
But are you actually okay? Like, yes. I don't want to be a stalker. I'm acknowledging I've messaged you 20 times in the last 2 days or whatever, maybe not that much, but anyway. But are you okay? Mm-hmm. And then most of the time they come back and go, oh my God, I've been so busy. This is what's happened. I'll do it now. Or, oh, I didn't even realize, I completely forgot, or because you've got to remember they have a life. Yeah. And you don't know, you're not privy to what's going on in their big brother world. So, yeah, many times, I mean, I had I was crook recently, my body was just going through a little change, and I'd reached out to some people on Fiverr, and then suddenly I got a million messages and I literally couldn't even read them. And so it was so then I went back to them all and just said, look, I'm actually just going through something right now. Let me come back to you. And they're all like, oh, thank you so much, and I didn't want to leave them hanging because they're like, oh my God, this person wants my service or whatever, I don't know. But I was going through stuff that I couldn't even function and get my brain around. Right. So are you okay? You don't know what the other person's doing. And I think that's don't make assumptions. That's the other 4 agreement, really.
It's super important because there's 2 sides to this, and it depends on which side are you. Because I'm thinking to myself about if somebody says to me, oh, I really want to have a reading from you, or I really need to have a consultation, or I want to coach with you, so I may check up on that person if they don't follow through, but not always, because the other part,
your energy. The other thing is depends on your energy.
Exactly. Because this is tip number 2 from me anyway.
Yeah. Have you got your pen and paper, people?
Yeah, we did tell you. We do like to encourage people to have a pen and paper. Actually, we need a pen and paper too, because we like to write down our own.
What was tip number 1?
The first one was to not take things personally.
Yeah, that's
right.
It.
And that's what we then led us into the conversation about the 4 agreements, in particular, that don't take things personally and don't make assumptions. But the other thing too, and I've seen it in my own self, that not following through, others not following through. So I might say, this is a great exercise routine. I'm going to start doing this, 3 times a week. And maybe I say it multiple times. I'm going to start doing this. And then I don't. And then, I missed another day, but I'm going to do it. Oh, I didn't. But here's what happened to me. And this is my tip, is to watch for this, because sometimes we say things from a perspective of we should.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I'm like, I know where she's going with this.
Quotation marks, we should be doing this, but we don't really want to.
Yeah. And pleasing the others.
Pleasing others, or trying to fit ourselves into a mold. It reminds me of many, many, many years ago. This is almost over 20 years ago, actually. I used to smoke. And I can remember knowing that I should give up smoking. And I'm going to give up smoking, But I didn't follow through. And until one day, I actually sat down with myself, like, what's wrong with me? All the people around me were quitting smoking. You were not able to smoke in restaurants or in bars. And not in anybody's houses. And my social circle, there was fewer and fewer people smoking, but for some reason, the diehard Moira here was still doing it. But in getting really clear and truthful with myself, it was that should that was saying, you better give up, because I did enjoy it at that point.
Yeah.
Until I didn't. And it was then, and so the thing is that I had to make sure I didn't criticize myself for not following through, because that creates this whole loop of beating yourself up.
Well, that internal dialogue is your destroyer on a lot of things.
Truly. But if you and I was bringing that internal to me, because we can do that to other people, right? So take that like outside. So obviously I did quit smoking over 20 years ago, and have never looked back, and I'm very grateful for the experience. But I will never condemn or shame a person who said, "Oh, I should give up. I know it's not good for me," and because I know that they're going through their own process. So that's something that's really important, to just keep yourself in check about your accusation of somebody, or like, "Hey, you said you were going to do this and then you didn't follow through." Are you holding space and having respect for whatever emotional or mental issue that they may be working through with what they said they were going to do or not do, right?
And I think we can do this as a tip, or we can label that one into that, and that's the word trust.
Yes. Yep.
And trust is a builder or a destroyer.
Yeah. Trust comes up so many times in our conversations, doesn't it?
So we can use it. We can actually put that into tip number 2, or we can use it as, well, actually, I'm going to say it's tip number 3 is trust. And because it's actually worthy of being on its own.
I agree.
But it is that trust the process, even though right now I'm going through a decision process, and I'm not trusting the process. I'm secretly trusting the process, but deep down I want a decision. I'm going through that, and it's turning me inside out.
Yep.
But it's when I just actually let go, I feel so much better about the decision. And my partner and I were standing in the kitchen actually yesterday, and I said, "What do you think?" And my partner said, "Just give me a minute. Let me shut my eyes, put my hand on my heart." Yeah, thank you, Moira. Let me shut my eyes, put my hand on my heart. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
And I watched her, and she just stopped and she breathed. And I was like, "Hurry up, make the decision."
Oh, so you didn't follow her lead?
No, I had one eye open. I was watching her. and then she just had this whole shudder, and she says, "I think it's this." And I went, "Okay, bye." And I skipped down to my office. And I just went, wow, she's got so much trust in that decision. Because I'm not sitting in that trust space of this decision we're making.
Right. So that's interesting. That's a really interesting part, though, for you to follow into, right? Because that's the what do you need? And this is just for our listeners. I think it's a really interesting point, because when you feel yourself not trusting, and this is about telling yourself the truth, because sometimes we can get into, of course I trust it. We can be really flip about it, right? Of course I trust it. But inside, like you're saying, you're like, "Damn it, I want to have the clarity. I want show me, make the choice, make the decision." Yeah.
Trust can take you on a downhill spiral, but can take you back up. But it's also can take you to that zero moment.
Yes.
And my trust is getting stronger, but it's still not there. I suspect that's because I'm sitting more in my head than actually just going, "Okay, 1 o'clock today, just take some time. Just take some time to get yourself into that space," which I know has to happen, or would be wise to happen for everyone around me, just to do that. But trust is that they have their time frame, you have your time frame, unless you have communicated that time frame to them and you've come to that. But also be aware, you may say, 5 o'clock today, I want that report on my desk.
Right.
Now, also at 4 o'clock, they're working on that report. 4 o'clock, they get dumped something else that someone else has to put on their desk by 5. So they then have to put that those 2 tasks into a priority order.
Right, exactly. And sometimes maybe the priority is who's going to yell the loudest.
Yeah, that's the one. He's good. Well, we do know that the person with the squeaky wheel always wins, doesn't
That's
it? Gets
right.
spoiled. That's
Yep.
it. Yeah. But it is part of that trust process is going, okay, well, if I've communicated to that person, it must be done by 5 o'clock, then you just must trust them and not go back to them at 4 o'clock and say, have you done it? Have you done it? Have you got it?
Yeah. How's that timeline working?
Yeah. If you truly need it by 5, here's a professional opinion. Don't tell them you need it by 5. Tell them you need it by 3.
Yeah.
Because it still gives you time, because you're going to get it by 5, but if you have to get it in by 5 o'clock yourself, you've got to check that stuff. So don't give them the full time.
Don't give them right to the very end, because then that gives you no wiggle room. But this also, and this is another piece in what you're saying about the trust thing, is that I've always said that I believe we educate people how to treat us. And so if someone's not following through, like in your example here, is if I ask somebody or say to somebody, this is due by 5 o'clock, and it doesn't happen, then maybe I didn't communicate that, number one, maybe I should have said 4 or 3.
Yeah. And that's not lying. If I say 3 o'clock, it's not lying. Just in case you go, I can't lie to that person. Yeah.
No, but it's not lying. You're saying I need this by.
Right. Because you've got to put your time frame in.
Exactly. Because you want to review it. If you're passing it on up the chain, you need your time to review it and make sure it's what you wanted, right? So it's not about telling lies. It's actually managing your expectations. And back to this point that I was trying to make about the educating people how to treat you. So if in this scenario that you really need it by 5, but you said 3, you are treating people to say, well, because if somebody else came in and said, I need this by 5, well, yours is going to get priority because I need to get this knocked off my list first. And then I have 2 hours to work on this person's one till 5 o'clock, right?
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
I was just thinking, these 4 agreements are really screaming in this.
They
this podcast
are.
Be impeccable with your words.
That's such an important one.
And so when you're being impeccable with your words, I'm not saying say 5 o'clock and follow through at 5 o'clock. If at 3 o'clock you're not going to get it by 5 o'clock, be impeccable with your words and say, hey,
can I have an extension?
I'm going to have a problem getting this by 5. I really need some help or whatever. So that's the be impeccable with your words. And then the 4th one is always do your, these are screaming the 4 agreements. Always do your best.
Yes, hugely.
And we know that any chaos is a breakdown in communication, whether it's
absolutely.
your internal dialogue or external dialogue. That's where the chaos hits. And especially, what do they say? Assumptions is the mother of all stuff ups.
Well, what's that? Because that's the other one, right? Is assume you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah. I love that. Don't make assumptions. And these are absolutely when you're dealing with others not following through. So your expectations, like be aware of expectations, like assumptions, be aware of them, but don't put them in concrete that they have to be at that, because life can come into play. Recently I started a 12-month mentoring program. I don't know if Moira knows this, and I literally got myself bedridden. That the first week the content had to go out and I couldn't even read it. Like I had it all done, but I just couldn't proofread it. And thank goodness I didn't send it out to everybody, because it was definitely jumbled things. But when it came to it, I couldn't send it out because I couldn't read it. So my first week, they got week 1, and then week 2 was nothing. And they all went, rest up. You've given us enough in week 1 to continue going on for like a year anyway of questions. And so it was beautiful for that. So I had to be impeccable with my words and say, hey, it's not going to come out. Like that to me was a massive one, because I've got these people for 12 months mentoring, and my week 2 I've let them down, my quotation marks.
Yeah,
but
that's such a story that we tell ourselves, right?
I know. And
Mhm.
I mean, all the people were like, we don't want your content while you're in that state.
Yeah.
And we're not going to turn up on the Zoom call, and we're going to tell everyone not to turn up. So if you want to get yourself out of your pajamas and turn up on that Zoom call, go for it. But we're not going to be there.
You'll be on your own.
And that was part of that. So I had a job to do. I had something to do, but I couldn't do it because of that. So be aware that life interferences or distractions, or
you do have to deal with what's in front of you.
So you call it flexibility or pivoting,
and being honest and being impeccable with your word. You know, you're sharing that story reminded me of many years ago. I was really sick. I started off with the flu, and then it turned into pneumonia. So I was actually sick for 2 weeks. And so at that point, I was driving into the city to see clients in person in the city 2 days a week. And so the first week, and this is letting people down, all these people that depend on seeing me for their coaching session. So I phoned everybody up, told them I had the flu. Well, the next weekend, and it was like, I'm definitely going. I'm not doing this 2 weeks in a row. I'm not letting these people down. And my husband was really, he was quite irritated at me, because I am very tough like this. He's like, no, you're still sick. You're still sick. And this was an interesting part, because I remember going to bed that night and thinking, nope, that's it. I'm definitely not letting these people down.
Yeah.
And as I laid down, there was a voice in my head.
Went, I'll show you. Is that what happened?
No, it said, you're not going to make it through the night. And I sat bolt upright and went, oh, because basically what was happening was my lungs were filling up with fluid.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, I think I need to go to the hospital. and it was.
I'm laughing, but I'm not.
Oh my
laughing.
God, you've got dreadful pneumonia, and had to be propped up and all this. So the healing process carried on. But part of why I'm bringing this story into this conversation is because I really felt like I was letting down these people. Yes, it's my shoulds, but I'm not following through with I missed last week, so then I have to show up. But like you, with what you were saying, the people they were like, oh my God, Moira, you have to do what it takes to get your health back to 100%. Nobody wants to see you sick or coughing. And I was doing a lot more than just coughing.
Yeah, it's real. We had one of the people of the team probably 2 weeks later who just said, I can't get on the Zoom call. I'm so crook. I actually haven't done any of the homework from last week. And I'm like, take all the time you want, really.
Just
that
relax.
Homework can wait. You can honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, are you sure? And I was just thinking, of course I'm blooming sure. Oh my God, especially me, because I've just done the same thing to all of you. But it was really interesting how, so we say be flexible on timeframes, but it was interesting how much pressure even I put, who is a mindset specialist who just went into that crazy world of, I've got to do this and gotta, should, oughta, have to, need to, all that. And to think that she also thought the same thing. Right. We put so much. So our internal dialogue, it can run a marathon, or actually can run the hamster wheel, which we know.
Well, that's something I often do with clients, is to check in, is where's this story coming from? Because oftentimes we create such amazing stories about, like you're saying, oh, I can't do that because I haven't done this assignment, or haven't read this, or haven't done this exercise, or haven't done this meditation, but this is the thing about others not following through. who's to say that they did their best? We can't criticize somebody if they, maybe chaos came up for them. You were depending on somebody doing an errand, or they said, I am going to show up at such and such a time. But maybe they got in a car accident, or maybe they had some crisis with their kid that they had to deal with at the last minute. So it's always, to me, it's always about creating space for what else is happening to that other person.
Yeah, well, and I think I love that. Well, yeah, I labeled it flexibility on the time frame, flexibility, pivoting, whatever. Mm-hmm. But if the last 2 years of our world, yours, mine, and all the listeners, has not taught us flexibility,
Truly, yeah.
Because that is literally a pivot. It's what's happening? Pivot. We'll just try this angle. Oh, go back down to my desk. Oh, what am I doing now? I've got to do it this way. The last 2 years have truly shown us to be more flexible on our feet than ever. Yep. So tips to deal with others not following through. The government hasn't followed through on what they said. The prime minister of your country or our country or whatever is not following through what they said. Flexibility, mate.
and a sense of humor, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Like a sense of humor. It's like, instead of going, oh, how dare they? They didn't do what they said they were going to do. How about just going, oh, well, I guess that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Just like be a bit more lighthearted about it, right?
Yeah. Well, talking about sense of humor, I posted a thing on my social media story, and it was about a petrol quote. And because petrol's just, going a little bit crazy at the moment in New Zealand. And one of the things
in North America, she's talking about gas.
Oh, yeah, of course you say gas. We say petrol.
And in the UK, they say petrol, but in North America, we say gas.
That's so weird. Gas to us is
we know what that is. And they say that here too.
Is gas that you cook on. And you can evacuate a room just as quickly. Anyway, gas, petrol. And I put a meme up saying, someone in pump 3 put $10 in. Where the heck do they think they're going? To pump 4? And I just laughed and laughed and laughed. I thought it was really funny. Where's the $10? What? Where do they think they're going? Pump 4? And I laughed. I know. I just thought that was hysterical. So I shared it with an emoji of funny faces. Anyways, this person has come back who's now blocked me. So I do hope they're listening. It'd be great for them to listen to this podcast. But this person slammed me for this post and said, I can't remember what they said. It got a little bit heated, so I had to actually stop and go, Deborah,
reel it in.
You need to pull back on this. This is not a worthy opponent of going down this path. They're not going to see anything you say or hear. They're not going to hear anything you say. But it was about and I said, I didn't know if this was true or not, but it amused me about what's going on in the world. And it was just a little bit of light-hearted humor. And the person came back and said, people are in poverty and this, and this, and this, and this. And they just went down this whole thing. And some people can't even afford cars and the price of this. And I just said, I went back and said, there's, it's all about taking governance in your world. So you're not controlled by this stuff and you can make your own decisions. And at no time was I disrespecting, because she said I was disrespecting people. I said, and I see that at no time was I disrespecting people. It was a humorous thing. And I don't even know if this was a true meme. And then the person came back and said, well, why did you share it if it's not your real life story and not and I was like, oh wow. It was at that point
sounds like that person needs to find something that's funny and have a really good laugh so that they can
have a belly laugh that you wet your pants from. and I don't even think I overed and out. Oh no, then they blocked me after that.
That's so sad.
And I just thought, gosh, it's interesting how I thought it was hysterical.
I thought it was funny.
I mean, $10 is clearly going to get you more to go from pump 3 to pump 4, but I just thought it was such a funny little thing about everything going on in the world. It was a humorous thing, but no, this person. And I was just like, God, take a chill pill, as my dad would say to me. And that was just when you're talking about the funny thing. Because
don't you think that that laughter and being lighter, it is in absolutely no way
That's a change of state.
overlooking, but it's not in any way ever overlooking or laughing at people who are suffering. I mean, we all know there's people suffering and that there's chaos and there's suffering. I know that. But even people who are suffering will look for something that's a bit more lighthearted themselves.
So let us know in the comments if you thought that was amusing or not.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I would like to.
I mean, without putting our spin on it, which I've already done that, but I was like, gosh, it's not a, and I know if $10 is the last $10, I got that. I've lived that world. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, actually,
I'm not sitting here.
Absolutely.
I'm not sitting in a castle. Well, I sort of am, really. I'm not quite. Grand gestures around me, but
you're not. I mean, the way that you described it, there wasn't in any way thumbing your nose at somebody who couldn't do that. And actually, somebody who didn't have a car or have the $10, it's not going to be in their.
Well, it wouldn't even be funny for them. They would just go, "I don't understand it."
Exactly. It wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be on their radar. It wouldn't be on their wavelength. And so what's the harm in that?
No. And I think we all do need a bloody good laugh every so often.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. But that was that person needs definitely a good old belly laugh. I say wet your pants belly laugh. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but of course it is.
Of course it is. But that's so interesting that we're saying that this is tips to deal with others not following through. So it's all about your own energy. Was that?
It's all about your own energy.
It absolutely is.
Well, that's it.
Always comes back. It always comes back to you, and always doing your best. So something that I like to do is if I find somebody's let me down, or somebody has told me they're going to do something and then I turn around, weeks later and find out it wasn't done, then number one, I will look at, when did I do that?
Mm-hmm. Ownership.
Yep.
Or as I call own your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so sometimes it will come up, oh yeah, I did that this time. And so then it takes away the charge.
Sting, yeah.
Yeah, brings it down. Other times when it's kind of like, oh gosh, I've never done something like that. Then I look at what is the emotion that's underneath my reaction. And sometimes it's got nothing to do with that, but it got triggered. Might be like an abandonment issue or a
what's the bigger picture here? What's really going on?
What's really going on? And then but you see right there, it's still both scenarios turned it back in on me to discharge the thing. And then, like I say, sometimes it's just kind of like, oh, for God's sake, I'm just taking it way too seriously and I just need to have a good laugh. Wasn't going to happen that way, right?
I think that's a great one, is ownership.
Yeah.
Is we've all done, I don't do that. It's the old saying when we're growing up, point one finger at others and you've got three coming back at you. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got that, but it is ownership. Take ownership of this. The moment you take ownership of this, it sits in your heart and you have you're like, oh, I can see this. Like, what's really going on here? Like, dig.
Yep.
I'm conscious of our times. I did write down the 5 top tips here, Moira.
Okay.
Is there anything you would like to add before I sum up what we've got?
Yes, for sure. The one thing
I was like, oh great, because I've got another 10.
No, I just lost the thread of what I was going to say. It was something, and then it disappeared.
She's going to quote something from a book that's like sitting 3/4 of the way down the bookshelf or something. Does.
Why don't you read out the 5 tips, and then if it comes, then we'll wrap it up with that. But
so number 1 was not take things personally.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, don't take things personally. I mean, and we know the 4 agreements have played a large role in this, and I did not think the 4 agreements would come up in this at all. Not at all. Funny they have, but they haven't. So don't take things personally, or not take things. Number 2, listening to that word should.
Yeah.
And pleasing others and being that yes person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'll do that for you. Yes, I'll be a dancing monkey for you. Yes, I'll do that by your time frame, and I'll, destroy myself around. Number 3, this is just me summing them up, so I'm sure people have got their own. There was probably way more than this, but number 3 was trust.
Big one.
Trust yourself, trust them, trust the universe. Trust is screaming in lights. Number 4, flexibility on time frame.
Yeah. Allowing things to flow as they are.
Yeah, perfect. And number 5, own your shit. Ownership, I mean.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so the 4 agreements were: don't make assumptions, don't take anything personally, be impeccable with your word, and always do your best.
Yes, love those words. Super important to live by.
And
now that you've just summed them all up, I did remember what I was going to say.
I knew she would.
I've always said this, and I think that the 4 agreements are such a beautiful reminder, plus the 5 tips that you just recapped for us, is that always remember, life is flowing through you, not to you. And if you're getting stuck in the life is flowing to you, that's when you can get really bent out of shape, because that person didn't follow through, and now this is crazy, chaotic, stuck, blah blah, flowing through you. And take a deep breath. Always flowing through you.
Yeah. Wow.
I think that's an awesome note to start wrapping our conversation up here.
And I'm going to hand it back to Moira in a sec, but I would like to thank Moira for that, because at that moment, my decision just, that's been playing on my mind, just literally went through me. Just
awesome.
I actually literally felt that decision just leave my body. And just for the record, I've been waking up and going to bed late, waking up for this decision thing, but it just literally, I could just feel it being removed.
Excellent.
So
flowing through you. It's always cool. Very cool. Well, that was such a beautiful way to wrap our conversation up. But before we say goodbye to our dear listeners, let's go back and check in on our scale of 0 to 10. 0 being zen, peaceful, calm, and 10 being chaotic, stuck, and OMG.
I know what
I was at 2.5 and you were a 1.5.
It just popped then. It just got me then in that last sentence of Moira's. So I'm absolutely a 0 completely.
Awesome. Yes, actually I'm at a 0 too. This has been a really fun conversation. It went way different places than I thought we were going to go.
So did I.
It actually was a lot more lighthearted than I thought it was. So,
I thought it was going to be a dark dungeon.
Yeah. No, how could it be with us anyway?
With our purple and gold.
Dear listeners, I hope that you learned and got some tips and some good, useful pieces. And like Deb said, I would be interested to hear from our listeners. Did they like that meme? Did it make them laugh? I'd like to know that too.
Yeah. And if you say no, it's offensive to the people, that's okay. I'm totally fine. Absolutely. I'm here for feedback.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean I'm going to take it on. I'm definitely here for feedback. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome conversation, my dear.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, listeners. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.